Hello everybody, welcome to Talk a Latte. Today I have the icon, the mother of all drag and theatre and dance in the KW Guelph area, Sasha Tease. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about musical theatre sometimes. Not gonna lie.
I'm pro musical theatre.
Good.
Pro musical theatre. Sasha Tease, stamp of approval. It's theatrical, it's fun, it's campy. I like it.
I'm just realizing right now how drag filled my childhood and my direction has always been, so...
It's always been there. Drag has always been there. And it will always be there.
Isn't that the truth? For those who might not know you, who is Sasha Tease in 3 words?
Mother, tired, hot. Hot, tired mother.
You know what? I'll take it. I'll take it just because you just gave birth.
Oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's new. Actually, he hasn't come out yet.
Oh.
He's like, we've announced the birth.
We've announced
but
it,
it hasn't happened.
Okay.
Yeah.
When's the expected date?
March 21st. It's
Okay.
our show together.
Let's hope that it doesn't snow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Push back the due date. It's a lot. That's a big burden to carry sometimes.
Yeah.
No pressure. No pressure. But I have no doubt that that child would be absolutely fabulous.
Shout out Filet. Hi, baby boy. In the womb still.
I will link them in the down below. If you don't know, you better know, because honestly, one of the best drag kings I've seen. Period.
And he's like 4 months in.
It was just stupid to me. I saw that show in January. Flawed. I was gagged, gooped. Like, I was like, this is drag. Like, this is everything drag is.
Mm-hmm.
And you just came out the gate, balls are swinging. I was like, what the fuck?
And it wasn't even his, like, well thought out, well put together look. It wasn't his great performance skills. It was like the fact that it's what he wants to do with his drag that, like, brought out the maternal instincts in me. Because there are many people, like many drag artists that have helped mentor and help nurture and like have fostered and felt motherly towards them, but I've always been like auntie Sasha. And that was a very important distinction for me. Because I take the role of like drag mother super seriously. Like, I never had one. I never had a drag family. And I often saw like that title be like bastardized of like people just like, I'm your drag mother, and like using it for clout or for opportunities, or just to make yourself look established enough to have drag kids.
Yeah.
Not adding anyone. But
I can list you some names.
And like, you know, maybe it's a connection that is strong for like 6 months, and then that relationship kind of doesn't go anywhere, and then they stop mentoring you.
Yeah.
And you're like, my drag mom is sort of this person, but I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And I never wanted to do that
Mm-hmm.
to someone. So I was like, I'm not called to it. I'm happy to mentor you and happy to nurture you.
Yeah.
And then Filet took me out for dinner. I was like, I have something to ask you. I was like, all right. And then asked me to be his drag mother. And I said, flattered. But I need to think on this. Because yeah, it's a big role and a big responsibility, and I wanted to make sure that I was up for the task.
Mm-hmm.
But he had, the reasons he listed was that like the work he wants to do with his drag is very similar to the work I do.
Mm-hmm.
And he thought that I would be the right person to mentor him, and he wanted to do a lot of community work through his drag.
Yeah.
And so that convinced me. I was like, I can help you with that.
You know what? Deeply relatable. I love that, and I think that gives it the right reasons, because whether you're an actual mother or a drag mother, like, that role is about somebody else other than yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And caring deeply about their well-being and their success, which means a great deal of sacrifice of your own person. And when you're in this industry, it is a very selfish industry, right? Which is going back to why just doing it for clout is a very common theme in this industry. And you know what, like, I have drag children loosely, but I also don't, because like I don't know how to say it. Like, I've done a lot of fostering. I've done a lot of getting people to where they need to be. But I don't really want to take the credit for their journey because they've gone and done a lot of stuff that I was not a part of. I was just the person who saw something in them and made them get to where they needed to be. So, yeah, I appreciate that.
And for me, like, the history of drag family has, like, a lot of weight to it. And, like, it's chosen family. Like, it's not just, like, a business relationship. It's not just, like, friends who kiki and, like, pass down old drag. Like, it's chosen family to me. So at that point I was still, Chip and I had just like met each other, so I was like, I can't say yes to this because it's a big commitment, but I was like, let's take 3 months, get to know each other, work together, be behind the scenes. So we did a 3-month foster period to adoption. So
I love it. What is like the story then behind your drag name? Because obviously you put a lot of thought into things that you do. Where does the name Sasha Tease come from?
Sasha Tease was the second drag name that I've had. I started drag in Toronto in 2019, and I was performing under the name Ashley a Man, which was like really fun, really funny. I was doing it as like a double entendre gotcha moment. I really like pretended to be insulted and then like making people uncomfortable. So people would be like, oh my god, you're Ashley a Man. And I was like, no, I'm non-binary, that's really rude. And I really enjoyed playing with that. And like making people think.
I can so see that.
Because yes, in Toronto, like I was doing a little bit more traditional drag, but it was still like way out there for the church scene. Like I was wearing wigs, but I wasn't tucked, I wasn't padded, I had my body hair out. And so I was just enjoying being a little fuckery. And so COVID lockdown, I had stopped doing drag mostly. I did a few Zoom shows and that was not the tea. And so I was just like stagnant with my drag persona for a little bit, and it allowed me time to reconsider what I wanted to do with it. The main reason I had decided to change my name was because I had overheard a few times homosexuals explain my drag name to other homosexuals. And I heard the ways that name could be misconstrued and taken as transphobic. Because the way I was using it to like make fun of people's timidness around being accidentally transphobic, but then I heard like a gay being like, yeah, she's Ashley a Man because she's hairy and she looks like a man, but she's wearing a wig, so ha ha ha. And I was like, ooh, no, that's not what we're doing. And so I was like, I can't be in every room to correct people when they talk about Ashley a Man. And the last thing I would want is for another trans folk to hear that name and hear it explained poorly and be like, oh, that feels gross. So I said, we're pivoting. So I was, sitting with myself and thinking of names, and I'm gay, so I say things weirdly. So every time I say a word, I'm like, oh, that also sounds like this word. So I'm like, Sasha also sounds like Sasha. Sasha. And so I was like, ooh, that's kind of fun. I could be a Sasha. And then I was like, what would I want to be a Sasha of? Sasha bitch, Sasha slut. And so, yeah, that kind of started the journey. And since I had already been performing, I knew what my performance style was. I knew I was like definitely pulling more from like burlesque and lots of slow sensuality and hair whips. And then also, like, my performance style is very sensual, very sexual, but I'm not always a very sexual person. And being a trans feminine person, I often experience that like men who see me and think of me as a sexual object and expect me to then fulfill all of their sexual fantasies that they want from a trans girl. And so I've become very comfortable being labeled a tease, and not having that impact how I act. So I was like, I'm Sasha Tease, period. And so, yeah, I wanted that name to encapsulate how I perform and the sexualness of it and the sexiness of it, but also like remind myself that just because I show up in a sexy or sensual way doesn't mean I have to then be obligated to fulfill people's desires of me. So using that to remind myself and then also the audiences.
That's honestly so much. Honestly, like I didn't even know this. Yeah?
I'm an intellectual girly. I think everything.
Like 4 of those.
I'm so ready for a Sunday fun day, like in the summer in Toronto with the drag brunch.
Right.
And the girls.
Right. Where I'm not working.
Not working.
I just want to be there. I don't want to be done up. I just want to go there and have as many drinks as I can fit into me with my eggs Benedict and then roll down the street, all right?
We're doing that. We're doing that.
Yes, we have to do that. I'm going to take you to Ceylon because you need to see these buckets. It's fucking everything to me.
Message you if you want to be invited.
No. What was it like for you growing up then?
Oh, well, I grew up. And it was okay.
I cannot contain myself.
I grew up local to KW. I moved around a lot. I grew up very involved in church and religion, specifically like evangelical Christianity. My mom was involved in the church that I grew up in, so I was there all the time. I went to school at my church, so I was there 7 to 9 times a week.
Yeah.
So I was like very ingrained, felt very cult-like. If you're still there, you can get out. You can get out. You can leave. So yes, I do not have a lot of memories of my childhood. Many of it is blocked out for hopefully good reasons.
That's all right.
But yes, I did not have a great sense of who I was or what I wanted because I was just trying to assimilate and blend in and hide.
Yeah.
Like my queerness was coming through at a very young age. And there was no language for that. The people who were adults and around me and like raising me could definitely sense that I was queer and they had some language for it, but they obviously never passed it on to me. But I could tell they were passing it on to each other and like there was a general anxiety of what to do with me. Because my mom was involved with the leadership of the church, like I was very visible in the church, but they didn't want to have me be visible because it was setting a bad example of like, don't be queer. So yeah, it was quite the juxtaposition internally because I knew I had some talents. I knew I had things that I wanted to say. I wanted to be in leadership. We had a dance team. I was in choir. There was always theater productions that were happening. And I would always try and be involved. And they would always find a reason to like not have me in it or not have me featured, put me in the back. And I was like, what's going on? So I learned to doubt myself and my own talents. And yeah, pretty much a whole community of adults were just gaslighting me because they didn't want to say, no, you're gay. Because I wasn't. I didn't know that. So yes, that was the like majority of my growing up experience. In like grade 11, I was still going to the private Christian school that my church ran, and a lot of things were coming to a head. Like my queerness was like out there. The school was so small. There was only 5 people in my grade, and they were all boys who were also pretty gay. Just.
Yeah,
the 4 of yous. I just was the most gay and the one trying to hide it the least. So I was bullied pretty badly. Nothing like, but a lot of social isolation. Like just every day alone when there's only 5 people in the class. It feels pretty a lot. And the teachers weren't interested in supporting me. So at that point, my mom was like, if you want, you can just go to a public school. And so for grade 12, I went to a public school and like discovered the real world for the first time in 17 years. And it was a huge culture shock. And so that started the process of like unwiring my brain and like realizing that the world I had known is not the only world that there is.
Right.
So it took me a few years to like deprogram a lot of that, and find a sense of confidence in myself and in my voice and in my talent. There were a few lovely teachers at that school and some dance teachers that really supported me on that journey. So that kind of, my launch into adulthood was muddled and slowed by that process.
I understand that, yeah.
But it worked out because now I'm on a podcast with you, Ramus. So I don't think that doesn't happen to just anyone.
No. Gassing me. Oh my god. I'm gagged right now. I almost feel a little bit speechless, only just because like that's such a relatable thing, you know. Like I went through that myself, so I really resonate in that. I don't want to trauma bond with you, but like that's like I get that and I feel it. But I'm glad you came through.
Me too.
And it's always been evident like how deeply rooted being a performer is not just in your person, but in like your actual soul. I think that's so apparent when people meet you and they see you perform, like the way you move. It's almost like this spiritual mind-body connection that you give to people.
Thank you.
So those experiences, as hard as they were to go through, obviously have resulted in creating something incredibly beautiful. So
thank you.
I hope that you find a sense of pride in everything that you've had to experience and endure because of the person that you are today.
Yeah. And like that experience of being hidden when I wanted to be seen and was like desperate to have recognition from my peers and adults definitely influenced my desire to be a performer. But it also like I love performing. But it also like developed my desire to have other people feel seen. Knowing that experience is not mine alone and that so many other queer folks have gone through that process of feeling invisible. So that's really the drive behind a lot of the work I do to like help other talented queer folks get on stage and feel seen and feel in their power.
Oh, completely. Effortless, honestly. Your ability to connect and personify people and get the best out of them is truly remarkable. There's not very many people in this world that do that. And when you see a lot of promoters and, you know, community leaders, they have so much power that they almost become very abusive with that power. So to see somebody who is so genuine in their connection with people and is able to bring out the best in people, is such a beautiful thing in this community. And I mean, hey, it means that you've always had people talking, even if it is, you know, a form of isolation. So how did you first start in drag, and what was like your first performance and what was it like?
My first time ever seeing a drag show was in town. It was at the Registry Theater, which I do have some shows coming up at. And it was a fundraiser for Tri Pride. And one of my siblings was performing in that show as a drag king. And so that was my first introduction to in-person drag. I'd seen Drag Race once or twice. I was blown away. Yeah. It was so beautiful. I was like, immediately, I was maybe 20 or 19. I was like, I need to do that someday. Yeah. Like, I was like, it's a combination of so many art forms that I love. And again, it's that opportunity to like be seen, feel connection with your audience, take music that you love and introduce audiences to it. So I was like, oh, that's a calling that I need to do. So for the next like 6 years, I was always like, drag, like always in the back of my brain somewhere, there was like thinking of drag names or thinking of performances I wanted to do. Yeah. Slowly started like buying ugly wigs and shoes that were too small online and like having them in my closet. For the longest time, I was thinking about it, wanting to do it, but had so much anxiety and so much like perfectionism holding me back. But the thing that finally got me to do it, I was part of a dance program that was like a 10-week heels dance class. And then at the end of the 10 weeks, you do a showcase. And so I had done that a few times. And then for this particular showcase, it was circus themed. So they wanted a bearded lady. And they were like, we've heard you talking. We've heard that you want to do drag. And we've heard you say this for a few years now. Would you like to be our bearded lady? You have 10 weeks to work out what you want that to look like, and we're here to help you, and you'll have choreography and you'll have backup dancers. Do you want to do that? Yes. So that was my debut. I had 2 songs. I did She's a Lady, like whoa, 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 she's a lady. But it was like a beautiful jazzy female version cover of it. And then that blended into Lady Marmalade. And I had my own facial hair, but then I added like a beard prosthetic. And I had like a flat ass red wig, and some crunchy makeup, and some costumes that were very thrown together. But I felt beautiful and had some great choreography and incredible backup dancers like bringing the energy behind me. And that was my first experience. Blacked out for all 3 shows. Like, don't remember performing at all.
I get that.
Yeah, there were a few people, like, gays in the audience that were like, we thought you were just a girl with a beard on. And, like, that felt so validating because I didn't look like that at all. Very, very crunchy. But yeah, so that was my first time performing in drag. Felt really good. Felt very positive. And then it took me a few months more to, like, do it again. And then after that, a few months more to do it again, but then eventually open stages and I got the ball rolling and I got the confidence to like enter specifically drag spaces to perform in drag. Like a dance showcase with like a whole bunch of straight girls was less intimidating because I knew whatever I did, they would gonna live for it. Mm-hmm. No offense, straight girls. But entering a gay bar with homosexuals and drag queens, if they don't like what they see, they're often gonna let you know. So I was very intimidated to enter those spaces, but eventually I did it.
So getting into drag, so you've obviously had like a very, I don't know, it seems like your journey was like this kind of build up, this accumulation. What was like the inspiration behind your drag and like what really inspires your drag?
Like I just loved watching drag when I was like a little gay hanging out in Toronto. I lived close to the village, so 3 to 5 times a week I was in Woody's or in Cruise just watching.
Yeah.
And like getting my life. Like that was just like my preferred source of entertainment.
Yeah.
And Woody's and Cruise, you're welcome for the like thousands of dollars I probably gave your establishments over a period of 3 years. But yes, I was fascinated by the beauty, the entertainment, the multiple art forms that go into it. And I just wanted to do it as well. One of the main like pushes to get me to start, where there were so many things where like the most talented drag artists were so beautiful, so talented, but they were still doing things that pissed me off, that I wanted to address. But I knew if I was just like a gay boy in the audience going up to a drag queen to be like, hey, you shouldn't make fat-phobic comments on the microphone, they're not going to receive that. But if I were to become a drag artist and finally take that push to be a peer, they might receive that better. Or even if I just do it and model different behavior, folks might catch on. So yeah, like watching as much drag as I did in Toronto's queer village, like so much unconsensual touch happening to the artists, but so much coming from the artists to the audiences, that just like hurt my soul. So much like femphobia, so much misogyny, so many like, every time you walked into the bar there was a 37-year-old drag queen bottom shaming a 19-year-old, and because it's delivered as a joke and everyone laughs, young people are in that space and going, oh, that's funny, that is what people think is funny, so I'm going to recreate that joke with my friends. And it just like created this cycle of lateral violence amongst queer folks that I was very interested in disrupting. So that was like also one of the big pushes to get me to actually do drag, because I was like, I am sick of some of the most talented people I've ever seen perpetuating harm. And I would like to have a voice to help challenge that. So
That's honestly
I did.
Sickening. How has your drag evolved then since then till now?
Yeah. Started in Toronto, was trying to like be authentic to myself while doing enough of classic drag to be bookable. It still wasn't really enough. I was regularly getting the comment from like the drag elders of like, oh, you're so talented, I just wish you would tuck. Or like, have you thought about cinching? And then there were like a few lovely performers like Deirdre who like had offered to take me under her wing and like help me with makeup or wigs. I was just like so anxious that I didn't believe people when they offered me help. I thought they were just like being nice out of obligation, but that's not usually why people offer you help. So yeah, my drag at the time, wigs, some cute but basic costumes. Makeup was a little crunchy. I would occasionally color my beard to like match the wig I was wearing, but that was also really crunchy. Like, I don't know how certain girls do it, but they do it well, and I couldn't do it well. So I came back here. There was a bit of a drag scene, but not a lot, and I was like dealing with some mental health. Like I wasn't feeling inspired to perform, so I just didn't. And I had gone to some shows, and people didn't seem that interested in connecting with me. So I was like, that's okay. There's other art forms that I love that I'll pursue. And so I did take a little hiatus, like from 2021 to 2022, where I wasn't pushing. I was like, if the opportunities come, I'll take it. But if not, that's fine. And then I connected with a burlesque group, and they had like a 4-week burlesque intensive with a showcase. And I was like, ooh, that might be nice. And then it was really nice. It was really lovely. Very inspired by like the burlesque community and the fact that like they will use their own body to create the silhouettes. They'll use often their own hair and maybe add a piece in. And it was just like so much more body positivity, so much more about like expression and feeling confident rather than, you know, having to have that hourglass, having to have that 90s supermodel look. So that felt really good. And so for that showcase, I was like, ooh, like, I'm gonna use my own hair because wig's fucking hot. I'm a very sweaty person. And the second it goes on, I start sweating.
I suffer every day.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And then I also like, I'm a hairography girl, and yeah, you can get wigs to stay on, but it's a lot more fun to shake your own hair. To answer your question more directly, my drag has evolved by like emphasizing the comfort. Like I still want to look hot, still want to like serve a fantasy, but it's the fantasy that I'm choosing to serve, and it's one where I'm going to be comfortable and able to perform. Like I would always rather look slightly less stunning and be able to dance the house down, rather than the other way around. Those are just my personal priorities. Well, if you or you are ever in one of my shows and you don't want to wear a heel, you don't have to.
I feel it.
But I know that would be like, that's a scary thing.
It is.
That's a scary thing.
Sometimes I don't know, I go back and forth. Sometimes I feel like it inhibits me from moving, but then I get flat-footed and I'm just like, what do I do with myself? Because sometimes it's also about the fantasy.
You do move differently in a heel.
Yeah, it's like the fantasy for me as well, you know what I mean? Like I just, anyway. It's the fantasy. But that's really cool. What would be like the most unexpected part of being a drag performer from your perspective then?
I mean, I don't know. Okay. Unexpected part. It's all expected. Expect everything. Expect it all.
Yeah, I think that.
Expect the unexpected.
For me, before I had gotten into it, because I only saw the external glitz and glamour, I didn't realize how much artistry was involved when I got into it. Like, you're basically becoming a couturier, a fashion stylist, technically a vocalist, even though you're miming words half the time. It's still something that you have to train your mouth and your body to respond to. It's acting, it's makeup artistry, it's dancing, it's a lot of different layers of art that's all bundled into one, and then doing it yourself.
Yeah.
And then having to be a business person on top of that. Like, it's a lot. Like, it's about 12 full-time jobs for one role, and you don't get paid.
And half
very
the
well,
paycheck, yeah.
Literally.
Yeah, I think because I was so periphery to the drag scene for like 6 years before I ever did it, I knew what I was getting into, in many ways. And so, like, I was mentally prepared for the endless criticism that you're gonna get from your peers. Thankfully, not so much here.
Yeah, that's true. So you've done some pretty titled shows. What would you say is probably like your favorite, biggest show that you've done in your career?
I would have to say, in September of 2024, I did a show at the Registry Theatre, which is like a theater in town that is it's a very beautiful building, can seat up to like 200 people, and they have the facility to do a full stage production with like incredible sound, beautiful lights, and like tiered seating, so like everyone in the audience could see everything that was happening on the stage, and that was by far my favorite production. I called it Sasha Tease and the Bombshell Babes. I booked 5 performers locally that have mostly come up in this drag scene and haven't had as many opportunities to be on stage and give a full performance, because most of the shows here happen in bars, happen in restaurants, where you maybe have like one central point and the rest of the time you're walking around the room to make sure people can see you. And those are lovely shows in terms of building connection with your audience and getting like in up close and personal. But that's very different than being on a stage with 4 corners, and that's the extent of the room you can use. And you really have to pull on choreography skills, and you have to have dynamics in your performance, and you have to find creative ways to engage props or costuming to make that 4.5 minute performance more interesting if you're not going up and taking tips for 30 seconds and then shaking your butt and then taking more tips. So it's a very different skill set. And I've had a little bit of experience with that through theater and through as a dancer. And I knew that there were certain people who were ready for that challenge. So I was very excited to get connected with the registry, get connected with those artists. We were able to have like a dress rehearsal and work with a lighting technician. And I was able to teach the performers like how to make a lighting call sheet.
Right.
And like what do you want from the lighting technician? This is what they can do. What do you want? And so like that was very exciting.
Yeah.
And felt very good. And then we did the show, and it was one of the best shows I've ever seen.
That's awesome.
I was hosting it, and so like once I did my numbers at the beginning of both sets, and then I just like sat in the audience and watched and like gagged.
Hey.
Yeah.
I love it.
So we will have our next show at the registry coming up is May 8th. It's going to be my birthday show. You're all invited.
I will have a link down below where you can check out more information for it if you're interested. It's better to do these things in advance because then things go quickly. So please make sure you get involved and support your local artists.
Yeah.
What was the worst thing that's happened to you during a performance, and how did you recover?
Is there anything terrible that I'm forgetting? I can't remember, but often this beautiful hair of mine will end up far down my throat. And that is quite uncomfortable. And then you have to...
Yeah. Peeling it out of your throat.
Yeah. And then in addition to that, like, TMI, sisters, but like if I have milk, I get phlegmy. And so like randomly I'll just gag, especially like if there's anxiety plus that, I'll just be like dry heaving. And so that happens often while I perform.
I'm the same way.
So I just like have to like turn away from the audience and like, so if you ever see me doing that during a performance, No, you do not smell. I'm just gaggy.
For me, it's always like that. Because, like, I'm allergic to milk, so if I have it, I just get so phlegmy. And, like, half of my performances are usually vocal, so I find it really difficult. And I'm like, it's gross.
See, we're incredibly beautiful, but we're just human. We're like you. We get phlegmy too. We're so relatable.
What is your take on the current drag scene and how has it changed over the years that you've been performing?
Our drag scene in KW is lovely, gal. It has changed a lot in the last like 3 years since I've been here and seeing it. It's super nice. And yes, as we've talked about, the rules here and the expectations of how drag shows up is very different than what you might get in a larger city or on a television show. Much more of an emphasis on like expression and community and like queer joy than there is on looking like a perfect drawing or like looking like a RuPaul's Drag Race girl. Which I personally really enjoy. I don't need my drag artists to look like $1 million. I want them to look like $200 and give me an incredible performance, or like be a really cool person that I enjoy rooting for and seeing perform.
Yeah.
Like be an enjoyable presence. My God, is that too much to ask for?
Honestly, yeah, I feel like it is these days because so many people are focused on just the image, that the one piece of the branding that they're always missing is the personality, which I think is like the most important aspect of being an entertainer. You know what I mean? What is one thing you wish people understood about drag artists?
That we're at work when we're working. And I would like drag artists to understand that comes with a responsibility to be professional in your workspaces, that you're on the clock, which means you shouldn't be on the cock. Oh, sorry, that was so funny. I had to say it.
I loved it.
But specifically, like, don't be getting overly intoxicated. Don't be rude. Don't be messy. Don't be unkind, because you're representing yourself and your business. And then to audience members, like, I will be kind and courteous and pleasant and friendly with you because that's part of the persona and that's also part of the work. But that doesn't mean that we have a relationship or connection that always extends outside of that. There are a few encounters where I've had people feel entitled to my energy and my space and my connection when I'm not working, when I'm on the bus, when I'm walking, or when I'm just at an event as a community member. And I don't always have that to give. So it doesn't mean that I hate you or that I don't enjoy your presence or that I don't like you or want to connect with you, but I'm not always on. And I don't always want to be on. And you're not always going to get the Sasha Tease experience. So I would love for people to understand that a little bit more and have a little bit more grace when drag artists aren't showing up out of drag the way that they do in drag.
Yeah, that's something I've never understood about celebrity in general, and why I've never really been like a fangirl of anything, because like the burnout's real, work is work, and you don't know people like that. You're not wiping their ass. So why are you like having this? You're walking in with an expectation of them based on what you've seen from afar. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's not the whole picture.
Yeah. And there's like a difference between being professional and being fake.
Oh yes.
Like I will be kind to everyone when I'm working.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I'm friends with everyone.
Yeah.
And that should be okay. Like we're not going to be friends with everyone, but I will still treat you professionally and kindly, whether or not we're co-working together or we're friends. Yeah.
I that's something I've been so people always assume that just because I'm an entertainer that I'm just always going to be an extrovert, but I'm super introverted. I find like being swarmed by people to be not intimidating, but just overwhelming, overstimulating. And I just mentally check out. Like I can't concentrate on like this swarming of people. I'm more into that one-on-one experience. And then after a show, I need to lock myself in a dark room for 3 days in order to like.
Me too. I'm an extrovert, but I recharge alone.
Yeah.
So I need to be alone and away from people to recharge.
Yeah, no, I feel it. Building up to this question then, what is your take on Drag Race and how it is created structure around the current drag community and culture?
Yeah, it's great. It's lovely. I watch it. I have problems with it, sure. But it's a great entry point and launching point for folks who aren't in queer community to learn a little bit more about drag. It's very narrow, welcoming to what drag can be. Obviously, you know, there are a lot of drag communities that are not featured on Drag Race, or featured just like the most sanitized version of it, which is obviously a problem and I do not enjoy. But, you know, finding peace with the fact that it's a television show that is produced for entertainment of the masses, not necessarily produced for the entertainment of the queer community. Once you're at peace with that, it can be an enjoyable piece of reality television to enjoy as you choose to. Yeah. But yeah, there's plenty of problems with Drag Race.
I mean, I think also too it comes down to irresponsible consumerism, because like a lot of these newer younger queens who have just grown up only watching that as the influence have this expectation of what drag is, without realizing like that is not just a curated television show, but like all of these queens have been doing this for years. It is what they quote as like the Olympics of drags, not in the sense of like it's going to exercise every talent of every drag queen out there. Everybody has their strengths and weaknesses, and that's what makes our community beautiful. But those people have been in the industry for long enough that they have the network and connections to create the packages and foundations to be there. You can't expect to go into the drag scene expecting to have a $400,000 wardrobe. Like the couture that you see on those runways is made by artisans that they know they connected with. Half the time they don't keep that shit, and you have to expect that. It's a curation. Sometimes it comes with the title and glamour afterwards, but that comes down to what they've done with that exposure. It has nothing to do with talent. And I think that is something that needs to be like rectified.
Yeah.
I don't think there's necessarily inherently, I think there's problems with the people who are curating the show because they're striking certain chords and they know they're exploiting things. But at the end of the day, it comes back to me, to the consumer and how they are learning to consume these things.
Yeah, not a lot of critical thinking. Just consume.
Yeah.
Consume.
Yeah.
Regurgitate.
These are the same people that shop at Forever 21 and Shein, so it's okay. How would you describe then your signature drag style?
Yeah, I like hair down like this, maybe a little more volume, simple makeup, or maybe a red lip. Pretty. I like to do some like traditional femininity with a twist, obviously. I feel very comfortable in like a lacy black little something and a black heel and something that's ready for me to do some floor work and do a split and a high kick and a turn. So minimal costuming, just looking hot and snatched, and like a curvy bombshell with body hair.
I love that.
Yeah.
If you had a theme song, what would it be?
Oh. I mean, the first thing that popped into my brain was Crazy in Love by Beyonce is just a song that makes me want to move, that I want to dance to, that when I'm strutting down the street, I just like, I feel the beat, I feel the bounce, the hair blows, and I go, oh. So we'll go with Crazy in Love by Beyonce. Me too.
I don't know
You
if
love
I
that.
could even pick a song.
I know, it's so hard.
There's one item in your drag closet you could never part with.
Oh. Yeah, I don't feel that sense of connection to any specific item. Yeah.
That's
Mostly because like my aesthetic is the thing I think about the least, and I put the least amount of effort and interest into. So yeah, if it's a garment that looks good on me and fits well, I wear it. And if I were to lose it, I would be sad and I would have to pay money to replace it. But I don't have like an emotional connection to any one piece of my wardrobe.
There's so many people who are hung up on that thing, and I think it hinders them honestly from expanding the ability of who they are.
Yeah.
And people are so manicured with their aesthetic that it limits them from growing.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have room to pay more attention to my aesthetic. Like, I'm not delusional.
Anybody does though, at the end of the day.
But yeah, I do drag because I have a lot of fun doing it, and the things that I don't find fun, I'm not going to spend as much time on. And that's all.
Outside of drag then, what is the biggest or piece of performance that's inspiring you right now?
I don't know. Everything is a blur in my life, and everything is drag. There surely are answers, but okay, let me think. I went to a cabaret on Saturday. It's called Pinch Cabaret. It's a monthly show that happens here. And it is just like a variety show of incredible talent put on by Ben Gordetsky. So I was there this past week, and a good friend of ours who's in the dance class with us, Kinks, Simon, read an excerpt from a play that they've written. And oh my God, it was incredible. It was like about your relationship with your dad, who's like absent and perhaps abusive, and like trying to humanize them and like understand what they've been to become that person, while also recognizing the hurt that they're causing to you. Oh, incredible writing, delivered it so well. I was sitting in the front row just like gagged. I was like, you have this incredible like writing and theater skills, and then you're one of the like cutest drag artists I've ever seen. Yeah, I was inspired.
Wow. I probably would have been ugly crying if I'm being honest with you.
You said I wasn't.
If you could switch aesthetics with another queen for one night just to try it, who would it be?
It's not just because I'm sitting on your couch. But you're so pretty. Oh my God.
Me with my Hellboy buns today. Looking, I'm giving you Shrek.
But no, like even at shows where you're not working,
Yeah.
and you just like show up in a little glam, I'm like jaws to the floor. I'm like, you're so like graceful and beautiful and elegant.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would want some of that.
Thank you. I'm about comfort as well for myself. Like, I love the aesthetic of a corset, don't get me wrong. But you try to bend or shake your ass in a corset, you have literally no range in your entire torso, which is incredibly difficult for me to move. It's great for the runway, it's great for the look, but it's not great for performing in. So, you know what? One day I'm going to have to like give you a makeover just for the fun of it.
That was so cute.
I would love that. That would honestly be so much fun. I love doing makeup. I love doing like little makeovers. It's like sleepover-esque, and I love that. It reminds me of all the 90s movies I grew up with. If you had to lip sync for your life right now, which song are you choosing?
This past weekend, I did a show on stage that I do at AOK, and I had different songs planned, and then I was like not feeling like prepared, and so I was like, you know what, we're doing the Old Faithful. I'm gonna do one of my go-tos, like one of the songs that I pulled out for that burlesque showcase where I was like reintroducing my drag. So I did Dance for You by Beyonce.
You know what? That just reminded me. Like I used to do "Ego" by Beyonce.
That was
all
the first
time.
song I ever did at an open stage.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I love that song. Duet?
Yes. You know, the one qualm I have with that song is I never feel like my hair is big enough to perform that song properly. You know?
Yeah.
Like I feel like my hair should be like Olivia Lux big.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know? That's the vibe that I get from that.
Such a good song.
Yeah, it's such
yeah,
a good
Dance
song.
for You. I love that song. I remember like watching that music video for the first time and just being like, this is womanhood.
Yeah.
Like that's what it means to be a woman.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
And so yeah, I love that song and I love performing it. So I would do that. And I would win that lip sync. Unless maybe, I don't know, unless my competition was you.
Hey, she would outdance me. Believe me, I'd probably break my back if I tried to keep up.
Yeah.
To be very fair with you. What is the best and worst tip you've ever received?
We're talking money tip? Or...
We're in Canada doing drag. The tips out here are scheiße.
What's the best tip I ever got? A $50 bill. The worst tip I ever got? I don't want to say a little rubber ducky because it was from a kid and it was very sweet, but probably that. It's giving like, what's your favorite dish? Mug. What's a bad tip I've gotten? I don't know. Again, my memory is shite. A good tip, I don't know. I haven't gotten lots of tips. Because I'm very
She's
much
the sender.
very much so a lone wolf.
Yeah.
And so there was like one drag artist that helped me with makeup when I was getting started. She like gave me lots of tips around makeup. But that's mostly it. Like I mean I got tips to tuck and to shave, which weren't well received. And I said, thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah.
That's it, mostly.
Who in the scene has always kept you on your toes?
Oh. My toes.
Toes. Tippy toes.
Always kept me on my toes. I mean, since I've been here, Elixir has been in the scene. And I remember going to the first drag show here that I, like, since I had moved back and expecting some, like, rinky-dinky drag. And that's not what she gave. That is not what she gave. And I was like, oh, there's this type of talent here. And so I lived for it and I was gagged. And then, you know, now we're sisters and we work together often and she serves it every time. Like, the amount of beauty and grace, plus she makes all of her own shit, and then she's an incredible performer. I'm just,
Absolutely. You guys saw it last week. Fucking just stoic, pristine, polished, human, very human.
Love you,
Gagged
sister.
good.
Love you.
Like, in awe. I knew from the moment that I first saw them, I'm like, I have to work with that person. Sitting down and talking with them, so inspiring as well to hear their journey and where they've been. It's crazy. To switch things up a little bit, 2025. What is one trend in drag that we are leaving behind?
Oh, assuming everyone's gender and what they want to be titled as drag artists, like love all the drag queens in the room. Like, no, not everyone is a drag queen. Not everyone wants to be a drag queen. Not everyone can be a drag queen. Unintentional language, we're leaving that behind because this isn't Woody's, and we're not all drag queens. There's drag kings, there's drag things, there's drag creatures, there's drag performers, and yeah, on occasion, a drag queen.
Yeah.
If we have to.
Yeah.
So that's what we're leaving behind. Just assuming that everyone is doing the same thing that you are.
That is so valid. I'm so guilty of it on both sides, like receiving it and dishing it out. I'm like the first person to walk into a room and be like, girl! And you know what?
And like language
is
fluid and fun, and like sometimes girl means everyone.
Yeah.
In the same way that guy means everyone. And then also, not everyone is going to receive it that way.
That's super true. When people dude me, I'm like, I know that's just being like, dude, but I'm like, the fuck?
Yeah.
I'm
And
not
like,
ready for
it just, language like that might snap certain people out of the moment.
Yeah.
Where you're like, I know how you meant that, but it also, like, it takes me a second for my nervous system to know that that's how you meant that.
Yeah.
And so, you know, when we're not intentional about our language, there's the possibility that we're doing that to someone else.
Absolutely.
And that they're going to have less capacity to be present with us.
That's
So
fair.
we can do our best.
You have some things coming up, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So it is currently the 14th of March. What do you have working in the next few weeks here?
14th of March. Yes, of course it's the 14th of March.
For you guys, it's the 14th of March. I don't want to pass date you guys on some shows and it not be there.
So what y'all are going to do right now, you're going to go to Sasha Tease Events. You're going to go to my link tree and you're going to buy my tickets for shows tomorrow, which is happening at Center in the Square, which is like kind of a big theater in town. I have a show that I'm producing for Femme Folks Fest, which is a week-long festival of shows celebrating works that are based in feminism or works that are by femme folks.
You know, I just realized I said the 14th, but it's actually the 7th.
Oh, perfect! You got more time to buy tickets.
There you go.
We time traveled back a week.
We did. But also, I mean, you're gonna go download that Lady Gaga album because you bought it, and then you're gonna go and take that inspiration and go buy some tickets so that way you can enjoy the gag, the gall of it all.
So yes, I have a show that I'm producing for Femme Folks Fest. It is called Femme and Friends, and it will be in the Studio Theater at the Registry, so it's not the main theater. We're not that big yet, but it's still a show with a stage and lights and sound that can fit up to 200 folks. And that show I have, let's see how good my memory is. No, go look at the poster.
It'll be linked down below, just so you know.
And then the next day, because you're addicted to drag and you're addicted to my productions, you're gonna go to AOK and you're gonna come see the drag open stage that I am producing there, which will be featuring this lovely one. That show is gonna be hosted by Lingerie, and it's going to be an open stage featuring all Black, racialized, and Indigenous folks. So you should probably come to that, or else we're going to think you're racist.
Think?
And then the third show that I will plug the following week on March 23rd, which is a Friday, right? You have your calendar open. I have my show in Guelph at Revel Cider, which will be the show that we're using to celebrate my 6th-year anniversary in drag, but also my adoption of Chip Filet, my baby boy. And so we have 5 drag artists in that show, plus DJ Diva DJing our intermission. So you can come and dance and be with queer folks and watch some excellent drag. That's what's on for March.
She's busy.
Busy.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I see myself continuing to perform, maybe not as much. 'Cause I'll be full. Wait, you said how many years?
5 years.
5. Okay, I'll be 35. I can still perform by then.
I can tell you right now, as somebody who's past the age of 35, you can. It hurts, but you can.
So I would like to. What I'm working on right now is like saying no to some things so that I can say yes to things that serve me more. So continuing on that trend, I'm assuming I would be saying no to a little bit more so that I can say yes to like those really big opportunities that pay the bucks and feel good. I love and I'm grateful for all the opportunities I've gotten, but I'm a bit over like a little rinky-dink cafe gig for 15 people. That doesn't serve my spirit very much. But they're very important, and those shows are excellent to go as a participant. So 5 years, hopefully doing less of that, more mentorship, more leadership, more teaching dance, more community work. That is like the stuff that I'm most passionate about. I love performing and I always will, but I love building community and leading community.
What is one message that you would like to leave for your fans, followers, and people who maybe are watching drag from afar?
I'll be a little cunty with it. If your excellence is irritating people, it's because they can't relate. Stand in your power.
I fucking love it. For those of you who don't know, one of my favorite quotes is from Our Deepest Fear, which was written by Marianne Williamson in 1985 or 86. And it was quoted by Nelson Mandela in his 1994 inaugural speech. We don't love him, but whatever. And it's basically all about letting go of your fear of not being your best for you and just being your truth. Because when you show up as your authentic best self, you unconsciously give others permission to do the same. And you denying yourself and lessening yourself with those around you is not serving your true purpose in this world. For those of you who are not familiar with Sasha, please let me know that down below in the description will be a link to all of their socials, events, etc. You can find out more information about them through their social media links. Please go and give them a follow and go and see one of their shows. They are absolute light in this community and have done so much. And I want to say thank you because you've taken me out of one of my darkest places and brought me back to life through performing, and I don't even think I would be here if it wasn't for you, so I appreciate it.
Thank
Really
you.
do. Thank you so much for being on the show, and until next time, you guys, this is Taco Latte. Do you have anything else you want to say as a parting word?
Nuh-uh, goodbye.
Bye.